Hello, and welcome back to part two of our factors of keeping and gaining attention discussion. Remember, attention is one of the most valuable commodities known to humanity, and it's absolutely important when you're creating media on social media, vitally important as you give public speeches. And that's one of the reasons why we're talking about it in our class today. These are board speakers. You don't want to see a whole lot of that. Then use the factors of keeping and gaining attention. Those are excited audience members, and they are excited because the factors of keeping and gaining attention are alive and well in their classroom. I am someone who is qualified to show you how to do that. I've been teaching at the university level for about 25 years. I've coached faculty members about their teaching performance. I've taught in all the different major modalities, online, face-to-face, and hybridized. I'm familiar with a whole lot of instructional design computer programs, including PowerPoint and Canvas, YouTube. So here we are, some definitions of attention. It's concentration. It's the ability to selectively focus on things, as in his deliberate cough caught the waiter's attention. And some synonyms are mindfulness, conscientiousness, and awareness. So now that we've kind of picked up and went back and sort of got some of that information from the first video, let's look at our different elective factors keeping and gaining attention. You remember in part one we talked about activity, reality, proximity, conflict, and humor. And here in part two we're going to discuss suspense, familiarity, novel, vital, self-interest, similarity, and history. Let's jump back into our analysis with suspense. Obviously, suspense is a potent factor of keeping and gaining attention, and the primary sort of fuel behind it is that you have a secret, and you're kind of keeping it from the audience. You're hinting around at it, but you haven't quite told them exactly what it is. Suspense is actually one of the dominant attention factors in reality television. And if you think about programs like The Voice, Survivor, The Apprentice, The Restaurant Rescue, Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader, all sorts of shows like that. Many of those were brought to us by Mark Burnett, and he is a reality television producer who understands the formula for suspense and uses suspense and ceremony in almost all of his shows. So some basic rules for generating suspense. Understand that suspense is built on conflict, and that's the underlying flavor. You should use strong action verbs. You should show, not tell. In particular, if you're trying to create suspense, this is a great place to use visual aids. Develop empathy in your character development. The listener must care about whomever or whatever is at stake. If the audience doesn't care, then there's no gateway to the attention factor of suspense because the audience just hasn't been made to be psychologically invested. The threats can be physical, emotional, or psychological, and the antagonist should be fascinating, should be riveting, should be fun to watch. Think Hannibal Lecter in The Silence of the Lambs. Gosh, that guy's scary. The pace of suspense is a lot like a roller coaster. There's a rise and then a plummet, a rise up again and then a plummet. So you're, all kinds of exciting plunges. It's a build up and a plunge. And that comes to us courtesy of a novelist named Beth Amos, who does a lot of writing workshops out in the Southwest. So that's suspense. Next is familiarity. I've had a chance to observe a lot of speakers use familiarity over. Familiarity is why a lot of companies choose celebrities to be their spokespeople, and you're familiar with a athlete or with a celebrity, and it's that familiarity that kind of makes you think, oh, well, Michael Jordan uses it or Shaq uses it, so it must be okay. Let's talk about Shaq. Shaq is selling a lot of stuff. He's selling insurance and gold bond powder and deodorant and some kind of cream and Papa John's and his own clothing line and custom van conversions. And I mean, it's really quite impressive how many things Shaq is the celebrity spokesperson for. I don't know that I've ever seen anyone who hawks successfully more stuff than Shaq. Another way that speakers use familiarity is to make a reference to a local place or to a local person. And the best example that I ever saw of that in person was at the OSU Stillwater campus when George H.W. Bush was our president, and he came out there and addressed the Cowboy Nation during graduation. And he started his speech off, and you can check it out on YouTube, but he started his speech off with the attention getter. I am excited to speak with you today, but honestly, I can't wait to be finished. I'm going to head over to Eskimo Joe's and get some cheese fries, and me and the Secret Service guys are going to have a beer, and I'm going to get t-shirts for all the grandchildren. And when he said that and said that he was going to go drink a beer, at our watering hole, man, everybody who was present, there that day was really excited about that. And in real time, this guy right here, I mean, he's like the, I don't know, salutatorian or valedictorian or something like that. Anyway, he starts cheesing from ear to ear, and he's just super happy. And it's a really good example of how familiarity and referencing something that the audience is familiar with is a very potent attention getter. Great way to lead your speech. You'll also see people come and touch stage. Maybe they'll point at somebody and say, hey, big shout out to my new friend Chris. Chris gave me a ride from the airport, and I can't wait until our presentation's over today. I'm going to head over to Earl's Rib Crib and or to Earl's Ribs, and I'm going to have some ribs with my new friend Chris. All right, so you're charismatic because you're referencing somebody that they all know, and you're behaving like they're friends. That's a level of familiarity, and it really benefits speakers to use familiarity as an attention device. Routine makes us feel familiar and makes us comfortable. The next is novel or novelty. And if you think about a novelty shop, that's a place where you can buy new stuff or things that you can't regularly get at other places, kind of unique things. So if something is, tried and true, it's traditional. If something is new and improved, then it's novel. And audiences like to hear about new stuff. They like to hear about the new way to do things. They like to hear about, changes. They like to hear about how things have gotten better. So think about advertisers and people who are, designing the packaging for products, right? Try our new and improved formula. Now 25% bigger. Now fighting stains with OxyClean. Okay, those are examples of novelty and how things can become new and improved. But it's not just the product packaging. Sometimes it's the actual products themselves. Ring went on Shark Tank and famously was not picked up by any of the sharks. But you'd be hard pressed to go into any neighborhood in America and not find several of these functioning as the doorbell for those residences. Avocado is a new way of making mattresses, a new way of making bedding. All of this is a green mattress, and it's all grown from sustainable materials that they source themselves. In other words, they have purchased property and they are growing cotton, they're growing the stuffing, they're growing the stuff that they need to put in it, and it has a very minimal environmental impact. That's new and improved, that's novel. And of course, Tom's Shoes down here burst onto the scene several years ago. They're novel because for every one pair that you buy, they donate a pair to people who don't have shoes or to people who need shoes. So, and some of those are domestic and some of those are international. I would say the one thing that audience members maybe like more than novelty or something that's new and improved is something that's vitally important to them. We are all basically self-centered. We are self-interested. We are remarkably self-absorbed. We want to make more money and get a better deal. And if you can show us how to do that, we consider that to be vital information. We're all familiar with vital information. Of course, we've all had a teacher or a professor who wanted us to write something down, and maybe they said, this will be on the test. They're highlighting that that's vital information, and that's how they're getting you to pay attention to it. This information will help you in the future. This information could decrease your mortgage payment. These facts could save your life. People are self-centered, and if you show them how to capitalize on their own self-interest and invest in their own self-interest, they will pay attention to you. You will command their attention. And the media of the day confirms that this is true. I mean, look at TikTok, look at Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, X. All of those things demonstrate that we are vitally interested in ourselves. People want to make more money, save more money, look better, feel better, have more free time, get a better deal, make less effort. If you can show them how to do that, they're going to pay a lot of attention to you. On the screen here, we have 6 people who do show people how to look better and feel better and make more money. So vital self-interest obviously is one of the big themes of social media, and one of the big themes of how social media influencers get clout. They know that you are interested in their topics, and they have a certain amount of expertise to share about that. So they commodify your attention into dollars, and they do that based on conflict and based on vital self-interest, and based on the fact that you want, the newest, bestest thing, and you want to get better. An interesting thought experiment here with this slide and the next slide. I've been having an ongoing conversation with my students for about the past 3 years now, and my assertion is that the internet is essentially an echo chamber, and that we all self-select the things that we want to look at. These are 6 of the most popular, most dominant, most powerful social media influencers in the world. I study communication. I didn't know who any of them were. Not one. Conversely, my son was able to name, I think, 4 out of 5. A lot of people my son's 25. A lot of people who are in our class, are able to name 2 or 3 or 4. Again, I'm over 50. I couldn't name one. Conversely, these are 3 popular people on my internet, and I pay a lot of attention to them. This is, of course, David Goggins. He's the only person in the history of the U.S. Armed Forces to receive Special Services designation in 4 branches. So he's been a Navy SEAL, he was an Army Ranger, he's Air Force plane-to-plane special tactician, and he's also like a paratrooper or something like that. So he is remarkably fit, and he is also remarkably hardcore. He talks about masculinity, he talks about programming, he talks about physical excellence, and that's David Goggins. The lady in the middle is Dr. Ramani, and Dr. Ramani has been studying narcissism for the past 25 years. Nobody really had anything to say to her, but narcissism is sort of the psychological catchword, kind of the day. It's sort of the buzzword when it comes to, behavioral science diagnoses. And she's been studying it for 25 years. So she's kind of having a moment on the internet. And then this guy's Grant Cardone, and he's a billionaire who's, made over $1 million in 90 days, started, with only $5,000 and did that. He writes a lot of stuff about entrepreneurship and about leadership and about relationships. And whereas I didn't know who any of those other 6 social media influencers who were all under 35 are, I know who all of these social media influencers who are over the age of 50 are. So again, kind of I think goes back to maybe a Plato quote that was attributed to Plato. Plato said, "If you are speaking to a group of young people, make much of the topic of sex, for they care about little else." And he also said, if you're speaking to a group of old people, make much of the topic of money, because they care about little else. So maybe, based on, how old you are, the internet is actually really different. That means that the vital self-interest expressed or catered to will probably be really different too. And here's your little meme, just to kind of drive the point home. And of course, I'm a big Star Wars fan, so there you go. Vital self-interest is important. Similarity is also really important, and we pay attention to speakers that we think are similar. We're also looking for similarity in terms of ideas, but similarity in terms of they're actually like us. We tend to look for ideas to be similar to each other, to be related to each other. If you're going to talk about three things, we hope that all three of those things are really related to a general topic. We want you to be organized and we want you to stay on point as audience members. People listen to people who are like them, and if they think that you are like them, they're going to pay attention to what you have to say. Especially if you're advocating something that's controversial or something that's new, you're going to have rapport with the audience. You get rapport with the audience by demonstrating your similarity to the audience. Interpersonal communication scholars have done a ton of research into rapport, and they find that developing rapport with an audience is basically the same as developing rapport with an individual in an interpersonal relationship. And most of it focuses on self-disclosure. If you tell stories about yourself, about your family, or about your experiences, if you share things that the audience doesn't know about you with the audience, then the audience responds to that. And the audience begins to fill in the blanks and say, oh, okay, they disclosed this. Oh, well, I do that too. Isn't that funny? We have that in common. We're similar like that. And then they begin to connect with you more. Storytelling gives us a natural way to increase our credibility, to tell stories, to do all sorts of stuff. And we're going to talk about that in the next slide. But basically, we demonstrate our similarity to others by telling stories. Hey, the last of our 11 factors of keeping and gaining attention is history. And history is kind of like conflict. It has several that are embedded within it. So it's kind of a broad, sort of container, and then there's some subdivisions of history underneath it. So let's discuss those. Some people criticize history as a title and say that just stories is better, that it doesn't necessarily need to be his story. Some folks have even taken that a step further and said that it's her story. Of course, history as a word is first used by Herodotus of Halicarnassus, and he was considered to be the father of history. And he wrote about 500 years before the beginning of the Common Era, and was a noted historian who had already, been recording history for a number of years before we started the Common Era. And there's a picture of old Herodotus and the other languages such as German and French, and indeed most of the other languages of the world other than English. This distinction is really never made, and they just use the same word for stories as history. All of these folks are storytellers. Typically, storytellers use their hands. Sometimes storytellers have artifacts that make them storytellers. Sometimes they have, just a microphone, and that's what makes them a storyteller because they have something to say and they have the microphone. Remember, history isn't just dates long ago. History can be the speech that just happened. If you're at a conference, it can be the panel presentation that just occurred. History can be what happened on television last week. Hey, did everybody see the series, finale for, House of Dragons? Here's what happened. History can be current events. There was a Democratic National Convention last week. You can reference that. It can be something that's happening in the headlines right now. History can be anything that isn't happening at this exact moment. So anything that's happened at any point in the past. Congratulations, you made it to the end. There's 11 distinct factors of keeping and gaining attention. Obviously, these three gentlemen are not entertaining any of the factors of keeping and gaining attention. It doesn't look like the person who is speaking to them has used any of the factors of keeping and gaining attention in a very long time. You should use the factors of keeping and gaining attention once every 2 or 3 minutes to ensure that your audience stays engaged. These audience members have heard the factors of keeping and gaining attention. They're very engaged. They're having a great time listening to whatever it is that they're listening to. You want audience members that look like these, not that look like the audience members on the previous slide. The best way to do that is to make sure that you're using one of these factors of keeping and gaining attention every couple of minutes. Hopefully we had some light bulbs go off during our lecture today, and you're going to be able to seamlessly use these factors of keeping and gaining attention to keep everyone's attention and to make your presentations compelling. These are the 11 factors of keeping and gaining attention. My name was Dr. Jason Stone. I teach speech at OSU OKC, and was happy to lead you through all of these today. Take care of yourself. Have a great day. Go Pokes.